Okay, so with that, why don't we go ahead and get started? Welcome everyone to today's webinar on the secrets to Outgrowth success. We've got a really amazing lineup of folks from the health tech space to share their secrets and lessons learned from the recent boom in the space. And so let's go ahead and get started. And so before I go any further, just a few quick housekeeping notes. If you do have any questions, please feel free to use that Q&A feature located in the Zoom webinar panel. We are recording the session and we'll share that recording out within 24 hours after the webinar concludes. And if you are having any technical difficulties like myself, I'm actually not able to start my video today, so I'm so sorry everyone. But if you have any technical difficulties, you can use the little caret icon to call in today. And so what we're going to be covering today is an introduction to Outgrowth strategies from all of the partners who have been involved in this webinar, myself at Mcpanel, the team at Yodel, and OneSignal. We'll keep it pretty brief so that we can get into the meaty part of the discussion today, which is the panel, which will be led by Mick around the secrets to Outgrowth success. And we'll hopefully have some time at the end for Q&A to answer those questions that you'll be submitting in the Q&A feature. So our panelists today, like I mentioned, come from all over. We've got Paul, Johnny, Giuliano, and Mick, and I'll allow them to introduce themselves more later. But before we go any further and get into that panel discussion, I wanted to give a quick introduction to product-led growth. And so product-led growth, what is it? So product-led growth is this really awesome go-to-market strategy that's been getting a lot of traction in the market lately, and for good reason, because it's been behind a lot of the success of today's trending apps. And in essence, what product-led growth does is it puts your product at the forefront as the primary vehicle to acquire, activate, and retain your customers. And what's really great about this model is that it recognizes buyers today prefer to live in this self-serve world. And we're really seeing that the pandemic has hastened that trend as well. And it also flips the sales funnel on its head so that any potential buyers can be qualified to buy your product, typically on a free trial or a free plan, so that upgrading later to paid is a no-brainer. But fundamental to implementing a product-led growth strategy at your company is first having a sticky product that users love, and second, having alignment across all the teams in your company. And at Mcpanel, we found that having a strong analytic strategy that underpins both of these points is the biggest predictor of success. But for the non-believers in the audience today, let's talk a little bit about why an analytic strategy matters. So these days, businesses have mountains of data generated from people using their products on all kinds of devices. From apps to websites and smart devices, there's really no shortage of data, and I'm sure everyone listening can really feels that that really resonates. But despite the abundance of data available to product teams, we ran a survey with about 500 respondents. We ran it with Product School, and we found that only 10% of those respondents said that they were able to validate all of their important decisions with data. And further, 38% felt that they were unable to effectively measure their most important product metrics. And the disconnect here between all that data and the frustration with being able to make sense of it is they just don't really have a smart way to filter through. And so what they're left with is this untouched gold mine of data, which they should be using to create those sticky products and to align their teams to bring a product-led growth strategy to life. So I'm going to give away our first secret today to Outgrowth success. And that's to start with ensuring you've got a strong analytic strategy in place. So a framework can help you structure your metrics and KPIs around the strategy, goals, and objectives of your business. And it helps align the various teams and stakeholders involved towards a shared vision of product development and execution. And at Mcpanel, we've created our Guide to Product Analytics, which helps teams create well-structured analytic strategies, and I'll share that in the chat with you momentarily. But once you've got a strong analytic strategy in place, you can start to execute against it, and that's the fun part. And so with that, our friends at Yoda Mobile have some more tricks and secrets to share with you, so I'll pass it over to Mick. All right, Mick.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Charlie. I've just got two charts to show you. So Charlie, if you want to go to the next one. In terms of sort of frameworks for app growth and success, I think there's two key things. One is this chart that I'm going to show you. In order to really succeed in the app space, the most important thing is to tie in your marketing efforts with your product efforts and your commercial aspect of what you're trying to achieve. And this is called growth marketing. I think it's only really sort of come to light over the last 3 or 4 years in the mobile and app space, driven through digital, by getting it all together and understanding what your product ability is, the commercial aspect of what you're trying to do and how you're going to price that, and wrapping it up in a strong marketing overlay. Are you going to succeed? And if you go to the next chart, Charlie, and the chart that's going to pop up in a sec is what we call the infinite app growth loop. You know, we've been doing this app marketing malarkey for probably 10, 15 years now. And this app growth loop, in effect, kind of crystallizes all of the elements that you need to be doing to try and generate that overall success. I'll whip through it super quickly, but if you start top left-hand corner, acquiring users through paid and organic means, whether that be ASO or virality, is absolutely key. You onboard them and successfully onboard them by grabbing their details as well as accepting push notifications. Retaining them is absolutely essential. If you can't retain those individuals, you're not going to have an app business. And more so, I think, with the health and fitness sector than any other real sector, because bringing those individuals back in to your apps to help and support them is one of the essential bedrocks of that overall success. Getting the good feedback from them, converting them to become, I guess, advocates, and then getting them to then sort of feed through to acquiring individuals again is by you know, the completion of that particular infinite app growth loop. And I'll hand you back to yourself, Charlie, there, please.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I think really what underpins all this again is just having data-informed strategies here. So with continuing to evaluate, test, and optimize, we really want to lean in heavily to tools that enable us to be data-informed. So Mixpanel being one of them, but then the other partners involved being OneSignal. And another important step in your app growth strategy, therefore, is how you can best start to optimize and communicate with your existing channel of users. And so OneSignal is a messaging infrastructure company that focuses on the engagement, retention, and growth layers of a user's experience with your company. And OneSignal's messaging platform helps you put into practice those growth marketing strategies, those data-driven strategies in an effective way. And it's also really easy to use and set up, which makes it really, really lovable. And specifically within the health and fitness app categories, there's been a huge increase in usage, 53% in fact, in 2021 alone. And the growth in both industry and app usage has led to a need to engage more personally with users in order to build strong and loyal connections. And by sending more relevant messages through OneSignal, we've actually seen a boost in retention of up to 22% for fitness apps, and up to 100% increase in click-through and conversion rates. Those are some pretty significant numbers that get growth marketers pretty excited. And personalization and A/B testing to find the right messaging are some of the most successful ways OneSignal can help you build strong connections with your users. So to wrap it up, I just want to do a quick show how Yoda Mobile, OneSignal, and Mixpanel work best together on user engagement growth. So Yoda Mobile, as you've already been hearing a little bit of a flavor of, is the expert in holistic app growth and marketing. And they help you decide on the best practices through the app growth loop. Mixpanel and OneSignal have built-in bi-directional integrations, which allow you to take those growth strategies and put them into practice. And then as you're going, always analyzing your results for continuous improvement, improvement, retargeting, and optimization. And so we're really excited to work closely with each other to provide a seamless flow between the strategy, analytics, and action-oriented messages. But with that, we want to get into the juicy part of the discussion today. And so we're going to move on to the panel. And I'd like to start by passing it off to Mick so we can do some proper introductions of all the folks involved. I'm going to stop sharing.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Charlie. And thank you everybody today for joining. I think we're very lucky today to have some incredible panelists with great experience, but also with some visionary in the space in terms of coming to the space when it was in its infancy. The guys have volunteered to share with us some of the gems and insights from their experience. So hopefully today we'll get some good debate, we'll get some interesting insights, but hopefully everybody will go away feeling a little bit more educated on this incredible sector. So guys, without further ado, could I ask you to introduce yourself, and perhaps we'll start with Paul.
Hi, thanks Mick, and thanks for inviting me to be on the panel. So I'm Paul Mccallum. I've been a growth marketeer since 2006, I reckon, although it wasn't called that back in 2006, that's for sure. And I'm currently now the marketing director for My Online Therapy. My Online Therapy are probably the biggest virtual therapy provider in the UK with fully qualified psychologists. So that's like the company pitch there. And I've been helping them grow and scale since I joined back in September last year. Prior to My Online Therapy, I had a similar role at Babylon Health, Director of Customer Acquisition, helping them scale to become a unicorn actually whilst I was there. And they're just about to hopefully IPO in the next couple of months. And then further back, as I said, lots of exciting roles. The Economist, marketing their app in 150 countries, fully global. And then We Buy Any Car, probably my first growth marketeer role. I was their first employee back in 2006, which is an interesting claim to fame. So yeah, really pleased to be here.
Fantastic, thank you, Paul. And you know, incredible that you've been at two of the I guess the predominant UK-based health app businesses that have been incredibly successful over the last few years. Can I ask Gianpaolo to perhaps share with us a little bit more about yourself and the business?
Yes, hi all, first of all, and thank you for inviting me to this webinar. And I'm Gianpaolo, I come from Italy. I work as a technical product manager in Platomic. I have been a developer for 20 years, and then I decided to join the dark side of the product. So now I'm helping the team. Some of them are in this webinar as well, in Platomic. Platomic is the largest community in the world about racket sport. We are in 32 countries right now. And the goal of Platomic, for who doesn't know us, it's to help people playing racket sports, like tennis, paddle. Paddle is the new sport. Maybe we can talk later about this paddle thing. And with our app, you can book your court, you can search for other players, you can share your activities with your friends. It's as I said, the goal is to become, we are already the largest community, but we have to improve day after day to keep this position and increase our numbers. That's why One Signal and Mixpanel together are offering us a lot of solutions. That's it by my side. Thank you again.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Thank you for that. And looking forward to hearing a little bit more later about how Mixpanel and One Signal work together to help you, in fact, become the largest community globally. I mean, that's a fantastic statement of success. So thank you for that. And Johnny, if you could perhaps share some, a little bit about yourself, but also, I mean, the incredible work you're doing with the White Flag app.
Yeah, thanks, Mick, for inviting me here today. I appreciate it. My name is Johnny Mccoy. I'm coming all the way from the United States in South Carolina. And I shout out to Brazil, though. That's where my wife is from, and she's sitting over here to me. Saw a couple of y'all in here from there. So my company is basically a peer support app that allows individuals to connect to each other in real time, 24 hours a day. It's a mental health app in and of itself, but we also deal with addiction, things like PTSD and trauma. And all we really do is we take the physical support group and put it online, except for that it's anonymous, it's free, and you can talk to each other one-on-one, which you can't do in like Facebook groups. And even in physical support groups. So I'm the CEO of White Flag. Before that, I am a civil rights attorney. I also do a little bit of other work as well as a lawyer. In my past, I've been a nonprofit organizer. I tend to focus on things that are more crisis related, mental health related. I myself have battled with mental health and addiction issues throughout my life. I have PTSD and anxiety and depression and all that good stuff that goes along with enduring trauma. And it was during my process of healing that I realized that there was a need for something like this. I created we have been creating what I needed throughout my process. And so during this creation of this company, as we've been able to add new team members, one of the things that we've not only looked for, but attracted has been people who have immense experience in this space. So everybody from our CTO on down to our marketing team, needs to understand what these individuals are looking for and missing out there. And so that's kind of how we got into it. We are about to launch on October 1st nationwide. So if you're looking for us in the App Store, it won't be there until October 1st. However, you can go to our website and join the beta test on there. And that's kind of what we're doing now, is we're beta testing leading up to the launch on October 1st. And really excited about this time. It's been 18 months building this thing. So this was a good timing to do this webinar. I appreciate you inviting us, Mick. Thanks.
No, that's absolutely great. Thank you very much. And good luck with the launch in a couple of weeks. And I'm sure some of our audience today are going to be very interested to find out some of those challenges you've actually faced over the last 18 months, bringing the app to market. But we're going to dive into the questions now, guys. And for everybody in the audience, Charlie's going to be monitoring the questions as they come in. We've got about 40 minutes to do this particular section of the webinar. We're going to try and do maybe 30 minutes worth of immediate Q&A with the panelists, and then open it up to yours. So please do fire anything through. We've got some great experts here today that undoubtedly will all have a view of your questions and give you hopefully a good answer. So I'm going to dive straight in with a handful of questions that I've pulled together. What we're talking about here is the health and fitness sector, and for obvious reasons, it's boomed over the last 18 months. It's been incredible. I mean, what we're seeing from some stats throughout the sector, App Annie reckons there's about 30% more downloads in the app space on health and fitness apps year on year than there were the previous year. And the amount of time that people are spending in the apps has actually increased by about 25 to 30% as well. So clearly there is a need for what we are doing, what you guys are doing in the health and fitness space. Can I ask you, and why don't we do this in sort of the order that everybody introduced themselves? So Paul, you're on the spot now. What do you guys think about, and I'll ask this question to all of you, what have been the key innovations or disruptions within the sector over the last 12 months?
So thanks, Mick. I'll dive in first. And I think like one of the big challenges for healthcare apps has been, it's been an educational piece here in terms of not just on the consumer side, but also on the actual providers of the service as well. So whether it be GPs or whether it be pharmacists or whether it be psychologists or therapists. So you have to convince users that the thing will work, but you've also got to convince the psychologists that they can deliver the service as well. And I say that's been one of the things that pre-COVID was like one of the big challenges that anyone in this space had to certainly work on. And I think like Myline Therapy's done a great job at sort of educating both psychologists and sort of persuading and sort of giving them the confidence that they can deliver therapy virtually via video call to a user, as well as obviously persuading the client and the patient that they will get just as good a therapy session, or just as good a GP appointment, or just as good a prescription from a pharmacist as they would if they were sitting across a desk from them in a physical thing. Now, obviously, that was a huge part of this market. COVID came along 18 months ago and kind of fast forwarded everything. So in my opinion, it probably brought 3 or 4 years of time within the space of about 3 months. So there was literally no choice for a lot of patients, and also for a lot of providers as well. They had to be virtual. And so I think it's been, whilst COVID has been a terrible thing for a lot of people and for a lot of economies, I think for the healthcare space, it's been almost like a fast forward button to change people's behaviours, whether it be on a supplier side or on a user side, that this stuff really works. And I think what all the people in the space have done have provided the technology, the products, to sort of give the confidence that when people have that first engagement with it, they have a good experience. So they have a good GP appointment, they get a good prescription from their pharmacist, they have a really great therapy session, and that just encourages repeat behaviour. So people go away and they tell their friends, this works, or they tell themselves, this works, I want to do this again. And it just changes the whole mindset of what can be achieved within the space. I mean, for me, that's been, COVID has been a great disruptor in some ways, but obviously the tech has been there to sort of support that as well, and make sure that it works as well, if that makes sense. So ultimately, this wouldn't be a disruptive space if the tech didn't work, and the tech has worked, and it's worked really well, I think, and especially for the past 18 months.
Great insight. So building that confidence and convincing. What I found quite interesting from that answer is not just the consumers, but also obviously the providers of the healthcare support, of the psychologists themselves, to convince them that this is a particular avenue that individuals will use and benefit from. Fantastic. Thank you for that, Paul. Gianpaolo, can I ask you, obviously in the fitness, the health fitness sector, what to you has been a little bit more sort of innovative or even disruptive in the space?
Well, we had this fight since years that we are fighting with pen and paper for club managers, because they have to replace their way to work with this new technology, with our app, and also with players that they have already all these small groups of people to play paddle or tennis, but it is not always enough. So we are helping them finding for new people, finding for new players. So, and actually the COVID for us was a huge challenge because of lockdown and things like that. But luckily, these sports were considered non-contact sports. So people were able to play this tennis or paddle or other racket sports. We offer other racket sports. And then we had to tackle this huge amount of people willing to play this paddle sport that is a new thing, and also tennis players or other players that want to play more because of the lockdown, and there was a way to go outside in some way. So we try it day after day to fix these problems, to help people with these problems, with searching for a court in which they want to play, and also searching for players that wanted to play. It's still happening. It happens every day. We have to find solutions. We have to find proper solution, and this is how Mixpanel is helping us a lot. And also One Signal with a messaging part. So that's for sure. Having these tools is helping us a lot. So basically, the amount of people, it's growing day after day, and we are and the amount of people is not easy to tackle all problems they raise up, because every player has their own request, every club manager has their own request. So we need to be disrupted there. Sometimes we need to take some decisions that are not popular. We maybe someone make 10 people happy, and 2 or 3 of them, they will be not happy about this solution we provide. But it's not easy when you have when we talk about millions of people that are your customers. So, and that's it. I hope I answered your question.
No, I think that's great. I think it's interesting. You're right. There's always going to be people that don't like change, that don't want to do things differently. And I loved your point right at the start, which is you're fighting against the pen and paper, which is probably the way that people have been doing this for years and years and years. But I think a basic truth, you know, people now are they're finding life partners through dating apps. You know, why can't they use an app that can find them a tennis partner or a paddle partner? You know, it's funny. Some of the smartest ideas, seem the most simple when they come to fruition, and that's what I like with what you guys are doing. So thank you for that. Johnny, so over to you. I think, you know, mental health issues have actually gone through the roof. It's been such a challenge for many, many people. It's touched all of us, whether that's, you know, directly or friends, family, and colleagues. So coming to the market with what you've got, clearly you've actually looked at the space and thought there is a need for what we're bringing to the market. So you are, I guess, just about to be quite disruptive and provide an excellent service to people. What to your mind, you know, took you down that particular route to do what you're actually doing now?
Yeah. You know, for me, when I was looking for a product to help me, I mean, anything in the health and wellness or fitness app, you know, app game or app company or whatever it may be called, the goal is to make somebody feel better, just to make them feel relief. And so, you know, when I was thinking about creating an app for mental health, the goal always is just to make it so that the people walk away feeling a little less stressed, a little less anxious, and whatever that may be. And for me, the only thing that really worked for that, now I love therapy. Now I have a therapist, I see my therapist every Friday, okay? But for me, the thing that really worked for me was when I met somebody who was like, yeah, you know, I attempted suicide, or yeah, I you know, I was abused as a child, and this is kind of how I coped, and this is what I went through. And that worked for me. And there wasn't anything out there like that. So we created it. But the market right now, with the way that you look at it from a fitness standpoint or a mental health standpoint, either way, the consumer, if you want to call them, the human being is becoming more aware and more educated that if they do certain things, that they'll feel better. If they eat a certain way, if they exercise, if they play racquetball. And so with mental health, because it's so far behind as far as like people understanding what it is, how to affect it, how to help it properly, you know, the fact of the matter is that the consumer, the people out there have had to kind of come along with the market as well, in order for them to be able to accept a product like White Flag, where, you know, you just tell somebody anonymously and openly, look, you know, this is what I'm struggling with. Have you ever felt like this before? Oh, you have? Well, what have you done? What are your coping mechanisms, techniques? But that's not something that we see every day. We don't see it in movies. We don't see it, you know, in our circle of friends. We certainly don't see it at work. I mean, nobody mentions at work that they're struggling mentally. I mean, who would do that? Except for me. I talk about it all the time. So for us, we know that we're coming into a market that people deem to be saturated, but the part of it that's saturated, I guess you could say, is the parts that that are a little bit more mainline and mainstream, I guess you could say. And I'm talking specifically about peer support apps and the like. So yeah, we are going to be a market disruptor, I believe, because we are doing something that is not out there right now, and in and of itself, you know, that's deemed to be a market disruptor. But at the same time, you know, it's going to be incumbent upon White Flag to educate our users and educate the public as a whole what the benefits of peer support are. You know, for the first time, you know, in the United States, I guess you could say, you know, we have 1 in 4 individuals who are suffering from a mental health illness and or mental health infirmity, and you know, that those numbers have only grown since COVID. I mean, I don't even think the surveys have gone out, but it could be that people are more aware of their mental health issues and their strife, or they're being exacerbated. But regardless of that, these individuals, they want help. You know what I mean? They're looking. It's clear that they're looking online. They're looking through other companies and other apps. And at White Flag, we hope to provide a service that's in that niche area where nobody exists. And so that's what we're going for.
Fantastic. Thank you, Johnny, and thank you for being so open about that. I think it's quite interesting. Again, what you're doing is providing a service on where people, as you say, find it difficult to talk to their nearest and dearest, one-to-one. But we are all using these devices to talk to people we don't know, whether that's on Twitter, via a text, or whatever. And so therefore, I guess bringing it to the device that people trust makes a very sensible directional decision for you as a business. I think one other thing that I picked up from what all three of you said in a way was education. You're all trying to educate people in a different way as to how the technology is going to benefit them. And I find that really interesting that, you're having to educate to get people to utilize these tools, these support tools, these fitness tools in order to benefit from them. So I think certainly as a tip there, that's something I'm going to be sort of taking away from today. I'm going to go back to you, Gianpaolo, now, just to ask, more of a, I guess, how do you do it kind of question, because what you've done is you've built and scaled, a global leading fitness community app business. And being an app business, their main way of communicating is through the app device. So how have you, what is the kind of strategy that you've put together in order to be able to connect with these people, to talk to these people, and how are you using the tools like obviously Mixpanel and One Signal to be able to do this?
Yes, so we use a lot. We started with Mixpanel in the beginning, and with Mixpanel we started providing data-driven solutions. So no more product decision based on an idea of someone. It was more, okay, we have this data. We are looking at how our users are using the app. So we know exactly when we are failing or when we are doing things in the right way. So with Mixpanel, these solutions are quite easy to take, because you are just to take your time, put the right metrics, and then you can see what's going on. So Mixpanel was amazing in this thing. And in this way, we were able to segment it, to create cohorts in for our users, so we can understand how paddle players act or how tennis players act in the app, because they seem similar, but they are not. Every user has used the app in a different way. Maybe you can find something similar to paddle players or tennis players or other racket sport players, but with Mixpanel, you for sure can be sure that what's going on is under your control. So in that way, we can investigate over funnels, we can do A/B testing, and really understand what's the engagement of our product is. And then we come out with integration with One Signal. It was so easy to integrate it with Mixpanel. And in that way, now we can use cohorts from Mixpanel to send push notification, or even better, in-app notification for our users. So in this way, we just build something tailored for our users, instead of keeping, okay, maybe we have to send this announcement to our user. In this way, we can create personalized messages that converts more than generic messages. And in this way, we avoid people going away from our app, and even we can use some tricks to get them back in the app. So that's how Mixpanel with One Signal is helping us a lot in the app.
Great. I mean, fab insight there. I mean, what I found quite interesting there, your point about every user being different.
Yeah.
It's all well and good saying, oh, they're racket players or they're tennis players, but within the context, I guess, there will be tennis players that are experienced. There will be tennis players that are using it purely as a way of getting out of the house. And you need to know that. I find that really interesting. And also, once you've done that, is using the tools and use the insight to build a strategy to actually personalize your message to those individuals, because they don't want to be talked to the same way because they've got different needs.
Exactly.
That's great. Fantastic. Well, thank you for that, Paul. I'm going to throw you back into the lion's den now. So really interestingly, both with your previous business and now with My Online Therapy, these are businesses that started relatively small, and with your involvement, you've managed to scale them pretty quickly. So what are those? I mean, let's just go right to the nub. What's the secret? Because we're all here to know, what is the secret to scaling quickly within this sector?
It's a great question, Mick. I mean, I don't think there's any secrets. There's no magic formula.
Come on, there must be a magic formula.
I think your slide right at the start, where you had the 3 circles and they overlapped, and it was called growth, is absolutely critical to having a business that's capable of scaling. And I think it all boils back. I mean, it sounds really glib, to be honest, to say that it comes down to basically you need to have something that people want or need or desire. And if you don't have that, then it's like pushing water up a hill. So that's really your first principle. And then it's all very well having something that people want and like are willing to go to the App Store and download or go and visit your website and sign up. So that'd be nice. Like that's just your starter for 10. But I think you on your little chart where you basically have to keep those people. I mean, you don't always have to keep them. There is some businesses who probably just can constantly churn through new people, but it's so much easier if once you've got those people, you actually hold on to the vast majority of them and you get them to come back. And so that repeat business aspect is a key part of making scaling economically viable. So whilst you can probably scale without doing that, I think the net economics are very tough. If you're always churning away a portion of your customers, then you're always having to put more into that sausage machine at the start, and the sausages are getting smaller rather than getting bigger as it goes on. So if you're keeping the majority of people and not losing that many, and they're coming back basically for free, hopefully, so you're not having to spend money on Google or on Facebook or on Snapchat. Even if you've got an organic way, it's still great if they're coming back and they're finding you, if that makes sense, because they know who you are. Because what happens when you've got people who come back is as you also pointed out, is they ideally become advocates of what your product or service is. And if there is a secret, I guess it's word of mouth, to be quite blunt, which people from Google, Facebook, Snapchat, Apple search ads will not be pleased for me to say that. But if you can find a way of getting people to be advocates and sort of almost employees for your product by going out and saying, this is great, you have to try this, or if you've seen this, this will change your life. I think that element there is what really can trigger that ability to scale. Because then when you do your marketing, it makes it so much more easier to help scale, because those people, as you put people into your sausage machine, you'll have quite a lot of them come out as being advocates. And so the unit economics of scaling become a lot more achievable. So I guess that for me, I mean, I've avoided saying virality because I think that's a really sort of buzzword term. But for me, having a product that people just really like and are willing to come back and use again and again and again it helps the unit economics, which is ultimately what makes scaling possible. Because I think otherwise you can have a business that works at a certain size with a certain amount of marketing spend, but because of the churn or because of the fact it's not got that repeat business, it just, as soon as you start putting more money out in the front, it doesn't necessarily translate to being a profitable business. And I think like understanding that sort of unit economics is the key to sort of making sure it can scale and will scale profitably, which is ultimately what you really want to do. And I think that's something we've worked really, really hard at My Online Therapy here, to understand what is that sort of what's that magic key. I mean, I think we're quite lucky at my online therapy. Therapy has got a built-in repeat purchase element to it. So you don't have one 30-minute therapy session and go away home and think, well, that's it, that's me sorted. Well, my life's what the very nature of therapy is you will book 6, 8, 10, 12 sessions. And so there's not many businesses where you've kind of got that built-in revenue, and it's not as though therapy isn't cheap. I must be honest. So somebody booking 10 sessions is spending £1,000. So it can quickly become a really good business model in that sense. So and I think that, dare I say as well, even after your 10 sessions, we've also seen from our early cohorts, they come back again, maybe 6 months, 12 months, 18 months later. So they might not come back for another 10 sessions, but they will come back and they'll find value in what we provide. So again, they see value from it. They might spend £1,000, but it's probably, if you speak to somebody who's had a good therapist, they're probably the best advocate for therapy you ever find. They think everyone should do therapy. And so the ROI for them on the £1,000 is immense. And that for me is like one of the things for my online therapy being in a good place to scale, is that we know that we provide good therapy virtually. And we know that the people who go through it will see good outcomes. And those good outcomes will make them A, tell their friends, or B, come back when they feel they've got a need for some other issues to be resolved. So yeah, maybe there is a secret of having something that people want to talk about and share with their friends.
Brilliant. Well, that's great. So again, some fantastic insight there about providing a service that people need, want, and desire. And also, we managed to get the secret sauce out of you that word of mouth is super important. So thank you for sharing that. But also, I thought what was quite interesting there, that the fact that you mentioned about the, if you're generating churn, you don't want to keep generating churn, because that means you're just continually having to spend money just to get the users. So retention is a core part of scaling. You'd expect, I guess, spending money being the key, but obviously what you've talked there is organic discoverability through word of mouth where possible, and also retention. So fantastic for that, much appreciated. And Johnny, I mean, obviously you're just about to launch, so you're in a place that, as I said earlier, many of the audience are probably looking to be in 6 to 12 months time. What would you say are some of those key priorities? What are the foundations that you would recommend some of the contemporaries here to actually put into place to try and generate that successful launch?
Yeah, so one of the things that we've had to do is become educated about one of the things that Yodel has done. Yodel has done for us, especially MK, our project manager, is educate us about all these analytical tools and core user base and paid UI and all that other good stuff. I mean, because I'm a civil rights lawyer, you know what I mean? Like this kind of stuff, to me, I had the product and the vision. Learning about all of this stuff, it was clear that we needed to develop a core user base first and foremost, because our app is peer support, right? So if we launch on October 1st and people come into the app and there's nobody there to offer peer support, it's going to take a long while for us to build up. To get to that point where you come on, you get the support you need, and then you come back and support other people. So for us, one of the initial things that we've tried to do during our beta test is develop a core user base of individuals who are already engaged in peer support. They're already engaged in dialogue about mental health, whether it be their own, whether they're a member of online support groups, whether they are following influencers that have written books on mental health and discuss it, all the time. We have tried to create a welcoming core user base prior to launch. That's what we've utilized part of our A/B testing for. The other stuff that comes into play with the launch is you got to make sure that development is correct. There, crashes every time that we fix something. It makes the app crash for some reason, and so we work tirelessly for a couple of days to make sure that when users get on there, they don't get frustrated. Because I think one of the things that we saw in our beta test was about a 20% drop-off rate if it crashes fatally. We were able to see all this stuff because we had integrated in Mixpanel and OneSignal. And so we've been able to have a quality beta test leading up to the launch. Now our beta test has been going on since late June. I think that some of our other user acquisition strategies have kind of made it so that we pushed it to October 1st. For instance, as Paul was just saying, we know word of mouth is going to be huge, and peer support. I mean, that's pretty much the crux of all of it is, hey, did you try this? I go there and, I'm there, I'll support you, that kind of conversation taking place. And so for us, we've wanted to make sure that there is a voice out there. And we've been able to find that through some athlete influencers. And that is because the United States just legalized college athletes and beyond to get paid while they're collegiate athletes. And so, we've been able to sign Olympic athletes and, quarterbacks who have created mental health nonprofits. So being able to kind of prepare for all of our foundations adequately by October 1st has really put us in a good position. But we're doing paid UI. We're going to do some ad work and some ASO optimization stuff. Of course, all that stuff is necessary, but that will start on October 1st in conjunction with the other things that we've got going on. So we're hoping to make a big splash or a miniature splash, and we're just hoping that it'll ripple across and eventually catch on and hopefully spread some relief around.
Thank you, Johnny. Great. So testing. I couldn't agree more. Getting the right tools in place to make sure you've got the right kind of data and you've got the right kind of insight. You could spend 12 months getting to where you are and not have tested. And I know a lot of apps that have done that have launched and stuff has gone wrong because they haven't got the right kind of insight. So brilliant. Much appreciated. Now, guys, I'm conscious we're down to the last sort of 12 minutes of our webinar. I've got another question to put to the panel. If there's any questions you want us to put to them directly, please stick them in the Q&A box now. And what we'll try and do is answer this question, maybe give you a minute each. How's that sound? And that'll leave us with a good 6 or 7 minutes to answer any questions that you guys pose the panel. So again, to all of you, and why don't we do it in the order that we did the introductions again? Paul, and I'm going to put this to everybody. Paul, what in your growth journey, what were some of the biggest challenges, or what was the biggest challenge that you weren't expecting that you guys had to get over?
So I'm going to give my online therapy answer here, and it's almost one of the answers that you might think isn't a problem, but the problem is that we actually had too much demand. So therapy requires somebody to deliver it face-to-face, requires a therapist to have availability. And so there's obviously a limit on how many sessions a therapist can take each day and each week. And so that's one of the barriers we had, is we just had more demand than we could actually physically fulfill. So which seems like a wasted opportunity. And how we've dealt with that is there's two ways. One, we've obviously tried to recruit more psychologists, but that's easier said than done. But I think the other thing is making sure the ones we do have are happy. So they give us more hours, they work longer, they don't churn. So never mind customers churning, you don't want your employees churning either. So like that's one of the ways we've tried to fix it. But the other ways we've actually built a self-care tool as well, which allows users to actually listen to basically audio skills and audio courses that help them deal with anxiety and depression. So almost helping to try and, like, some people also aren't ready for therapy as well. So we've almost done that as a way to have like an outlet for some of the excess demand that we've came across. But there's no easy answer to solving the psychologist issue. Everyone wants to hire them. But that's certainly one of the challenges we've faced. I think it goes back to your commercial bit in your circles, making sure you know what some of the barriers to growth can be before you start spending lots of money bringing people in, for example, would be the way to look at it.
Fantastic. So there you heard it, guys. Too much success, developing too much demand can be a real problem. Gianpaolo, what about yourself? What was perhaps the most surprising challenge that you guys had to come across?
Yeah, probably the most surprising one was the COVID itself, because it did change everything in our behaviors in our company as well. So, and now we are still facing with the COVID. As said before, the COVID brought a spike of people to our application. So now we are fighting with the user retention, that it's a huge problem. So we have more players than expected, and now we keep working on this, introducing new technologies, new products, like the community. We delivered this new thing in the app. That's the way you can share your pictures, your activities with your friends, to give more possibility to these players to stay in the app. So this was for sure the biggest challenge we had, even more than pen and paper with clubs. But this one now, because clubs are not that much. We talk about thousands, but when we talk about scalability and players, we talk about millions of people. So it's quite different, and we have to fight every day to keep these players using the app and using Patomic as well.
Got it. So every day's a fight. Don't rest on your laurels. You've got to keep working on it. Fantastic, thank you. And Johnny, in a minute, can you perhaps give us, what the big hurdles were that you faced?
Yeah, sure. We've only been a company for 18 months, and so our hurdles would have to have been within that time frame and context. And so throughout that 18 months, we've been building an app. And what do you need to build the app? You need people and third parties. And one of the things that was so surprising to me is how difficult it is to find, the right parties to work with. They got to fit. Not only they got to be quality at what they do in their job, but they also, and most importantly, have to understand your brand and your messaging. And early on, we created a brand guide. And as we, brought on new developers and we brought on new marketing companies, we would send them the brand guide and then hope that it would be reflected in the product. But when you are in a new space, I guess you could call it a new space that a lot of people aren't used to working with or thinking about. They revert back to what they've just seen generally online. And for us, we're going for a little bit more straight in on the dark space, if you could call it that. We're going to where people are really suffering, and so we've had to kind of explain in ultimate detail to the individuals and who are working with us, what it is that we're trying to do and the message that we're trying to get across, because for us, that's the most important thing. We're black and white, we're neutral, and there's a reason for all of that. And, getting the reasoning why that the messaging is the way it is has been challenging. But we're lucky that we, the one thing I know how to do is delegate and cut ties and move on. And so, we've had to cut 2 or 3 different either marketing teams or development teams. And, the luckiest thing for us was finding Yodel in November last year. Honestly. But, having said all of that, we're in a good spot now for sure for the launch.
Thank you, Johnny. But I noticed the slight veiled threat there. If we don't do the right job, you're quite happy to say goodbye to us. So noted.
If I did that, I wouldn't be able to sleep tonight. Trust me.
Thanks. So basically keeping everybody on the same page, I guess, as an entrepreneur that's growing your business really quickly, you've got a vision, you've got getting that down, making sure that everybody understands what that is across the team is super important. Fantastic. Thank you, guys. With the last few minutes that are open to us, there are some questions that have come in. So if we can try and do this really succinctly, Raphael, you've asked, specifically to Paul, what are the most effective ways you use to promote users to brand advocates? So how can you convert users to become brand advocates?
So I could give a quick answer to that. Refer a friend. Look at how you can do a refer a friend scheme is one of the most obvious ways, depending on which sector you're in. I think that's definitely worth investigating. So how can you empower users to share the offer and receive some sort of reward, potentially, not even a reward, just to make it easy for them to share what the thing is. So build it into your product, I think, and try and build it into your product as well. So it's not like think about when you want to ask someone, are you enjoying this, and get them to share it. So just think of the key moments of joy that your product brings. And when you know, so for Babylon, it would be somebody's had an appointment and you know it's been a good outcome because they've give you a 10 out of 10 rating. You know that person's happy, good time to say, would you like to share Babylon with your friends? And so on and so forth. And then I think the second one is testimonials. Try and get people who have used your product to be up for giving a review or a video review, even better, because that could become some great ad material as well. So I think there's nothing more authentic than having somebody basically saying how much they enjoyed using your product or your app. And that can be a great way of like convincing others that they are like, it's not somebody who's been paid to do it, it's somebody who's using their own words, their own language, and getting across your benefits. I think that's another option to go for.
Fantastic. Gianpaolo, this is probably one for you, actually. Sandro has asked, what are a couple of strategies to improve stickiness? Do you want to take that one?
Yeah, it's not an easy answer because well, for sure, what we do a lot is interviewing our users. So in this way, we can directly understand what their needs are. So in this way, tools like Apple reviews, Google reviews, we use other tools as well to have these interviews with our users, can help us understanding that we are following the right path. That for sure. You cannot run an app like Playtomic without listening to your users. It's clear for other apps as well, but in this case, they are asking for something and you really need to answer all their requests. Maybe not all, but you have to make more people possible happy. So for sure, the first strategy I suggest is listen to your users every day. Every day with the support team, offer a chat in your app or website. And then if you can, ask those players to give feedback to you every day. So this is how we try to improve the stickiness, for sure.
Brilliant, fantastic, great piece of insight there. Keeping your users happy and asking them, listening to them every day where you can. Guys, I'm really sorry, we're actually just about out of time, so I'm gonna wrap up firstly by saying thank you so much to everybody on the panel today. I'm going to hand over to you in a sec, Charlie. I did realize I never introduced myself, so I'm Mick. I'm the founder and CEO of Yodel Mobile, the Outgrowth agency. You can find us through info@Yodel Mobile or online. Thank you so much, guys. Charlie, can you just hand over to you to wrap up?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you guys so much for a really awesome panel. It was really, really interesting. And as you can see, we had tons of questions. So for those of you who did post a question and we didn't have a chance to answer it, as long as you didn't post it anonymously, we will follow up with you directly. For those anonymous questions that came in, please do feel to reach out to any of us. A recording of the webinar will go out within 24 hours, so you can, it's as easy as replying to that email and I will put you in touch with the right person. So again, thank you to our panelists for the amazing conversation. Thank you to our attendees for your participation, your fabulous questions. And we thank you, and with that, we will wrap it up. Have a great day, everyone.
Brilliant. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.